Hey, welcome back to another edition of the Friday Show, presented by Rowayton, son of Into Mischief, standing in Pennsylvania at Diamond Bee Farms. I'm Ray Paulick, pleased to be joined today by Joe Nevills, bloodstock editor of the Paulick Report, and Chelsea Hackbarth, the news editor of the Paulick Report, and an inveterate race watcher. And that's why we're here today. We've got three big Kentucky Derby preps, all giving 100 points to the winner, 40 to second, 20 to third, 10 to fourth. Basically, the top two finishers are going to have enough points to get in the Kentucky Derby. So we've got the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct, the Bluegrass at Keeneland, and the Santa Anita Derby at Santa Anita. And I apologize for leaving off the sponsors, but this is a short show. So let's start in New York. The Wood Memorial has, frankly, the Wood and the Bluegrass have not been the most productive races in terms of supplying Kentucky Derby winners. It's been a while for both races. The Bluegrass used to be huge. The Wood used to be huge. But now it seems to be the Santa Anita Derby and the Florida Derby. So let me start with you, Chelsea. Who is going to come out of the Wood and win the Kentucky Derby? And who do you like in this race?
Well, I don't think the Kentucky Derby winner's in this race, right? I don't think the Kentucky Derby top five are in this race. But I really think that the two-horse Crowded Trade, Chad Brown's, ran a sneaky good race last time. I know he got nailed on the wire according to the line notes, but if you watch the replay, he's kind of a little green. He's trying, he's not trying, he's trying, he's not trying. And Cancel gave up a little bit in the final two strides before the wires. And now Cancel's had, 8 wins out of the last 10 races in New York. So I'm going to go all in on the 4-1 Crowded Trade.
The waters got a little deeper for Cancel when the big guys showed up from Florida, though. It's going to be a little tough.
Got the hot hand, Ray. That's all that matters.
Okay. All right.
Got to ride that wave, man.
Joe, how do you see it?
Oh, boy. This entire race is like the where are they now of the Kentucky Derby trail to date. I mean, we've got, horse that won the Remsen last year and hasn't shown up since. Oh, hey, I remember you. We've got, a horse like Prevalence who's, shown a lot of potential and hasn't really shown up in a big race yet. I remember you too. Candyman Rocket won the Sam F. Davis, just showed nothing in the Tampa Bay Derby. Oh, hey, I remember that guy. Whatever happened to him? Wayburn, won the Gotham at, 46-1. Hey, I remember that guy. And they're all going to be, I remember that guys in a month when we run the Kentucky Derby, because none of them are going to do a thing here. But in the meantime, I like the Godolphin horse. I like number 6 Prevalence, because this is one that just hasn't given me a reason to lose faith yet. And in a field like this, that's really all that I ask for. He's shown nothing but talent. He gets on the front pretty early. He runs off. If he shows a big effort here, his buyer numbers need to improve a little bit. But if he gives me something in the mid-90s or so for a buyer speed figure, I can pay attention to that for the Derby. But right now, I don't really see a killer in this field. Prevalence has the potential to be a killer, so I'm going with him.
Yeah, when I see that Chad Brown's got 2 horses here that were both in New York over the winter, I'm just thinking, there's a reason they're in New York over the winter and not in Florida. Neither one of those horses is going to win, I don't think. I think that this is not going to be the Derby winner that comes out of this race for sure. I settled on Dynamic 1. Just broke his maiden for Todd Pletcher at Aqueduct, so he's got a nice win over the track. If you look down a few races, he was a good second to Greatest Honor at Gulfstream this winter, and that was before Greatest Honor went on to win a couple stakes and finished a decent third last week in the Florida Derby. So I'm going with Jose Ortiz, Todd Pletcher, Dynamic 1, breaking out of the 5 post as a field of 9 in the Wood. Not a bad betting race if because you're going to get a price. That's the one thing. There's nobody here that's an overwhelming favorite.
Hey, Ray, have you watched the replay of Dynamic 1's maiden win?
Tell me about it.
I would recommend going back and taking a little bit closer look before you throw your money away. He ran awful. I know he won, but he won by no one else lifted a hoof after the quarter pole. No one. The line looks great. I was with you, and then I watched the replay, and it is horrible.
Well, I've watched all the other stakes races in New York, and I have a hard time seeing those horses coming back and winning the Wood. So now that you've just completely insulted my pick here, let's move on, shall we?
I'll be happy to do it again at Keeneland. So,
Yeah.
The Bluegrass Stakes. This is Essential Quality's race to win or to lose, isn't it? I mean, he's going to be.
Yeah,
3 to
it's
5.
absolutely his race to lose. Like
So
Joe said, he's done
he's
nothing
going to
wrong.
lose, right?
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, no, he's my pick here. I'm on the Godolphin train for this weekend. I've got, the horse in the wood. I've got the horse in the bluegrass. Essential Quality I've mentioned on the show plenty of times in the past. He's my Derby horse until he gives me a reason not to. And he's probably got the toughest field to face of the 3 major Derby preps this weekend. But I think he's the quality of horse that should be able to handle this. I don't see anyone that has any reason to get past him, barring, bad luck, bad trip, struck by lightning or something. Like everything should go as planned for this horse because he's proven that he can win from basically anywhere. He won the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland basically on the lead. He won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile coming off the pace a little bit more. And most importantly, the horse loves Keeneland. Won the Breeders' Futurity here last year, won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile here last year. We know he loves the surface. Keeneland is very much a course for the horse course. And you got to play that. Trust me, Chelsea, it's right. I've got the syntax correct here. It's, until he proves that he can't win at Keeneland, all this horse knows how to do is win at Keeneland. Give me Essential Quality all day.
All right, who's second then? Because we can all pick this horse. He's an overpowering favorite. Who do you have second?
I mean, there are a lot of different directions you can go. Highly Motivated's obviously got a lot of talent to go on here. Untreated could be interesting. Maybe Hush of a Storm gets up and does something. The horse that did so well at Turfway. We're going to see if that Tapeta angle can switch over to dirt. I remember when Keeneland had the synthetic many moons ago, my favorite angle was to get a horse that ran on Tapeta onto Keeneland's surface and do that. Obviously, we got a different surface now, but old habits die hard. So you know what? We're going to throw a dart at the board here. I'm going to go with Hush of the Storm for my second.
Chelsea, you're not going with Essential Quality here.
I agree with most of the things that Joe said,
What?
but I also understand. But I also think that both Brad Cox and Louis Saez understand that this horse doesn't have to win this race. Like, there's no reason for him to win. He needs to take an easy race, step forward just a little bit more so that he's ready for the big dance, third off the layoff out of his own stall at Churchill, just like Cox has been planning since the moment this horse crossed the wire first in the Breeders' Cup. So that said, I think he's going to go right off to the lead, and then I think he's going to get asked to see what he wants to do, and if he doesn't immediately go on, and let's be honest, Louis had to work a little hard every now and again to get the horse moving, then they're going to wrap up on him. So with that said, I want to go Highly Motivated in here. I think he's going to be right there near the front. And he had a funny trip in New York.
Yeah.
He should have been – he had every opportunity to come down the lane, and then Javi ended up switching his stick at about the 8th pole and went right-handed on him, and all of a sudden the horse jumped back into the bridle. So if Javi remembers that, which – he's an intelligent human being, I would assume he would remember that, then he'll definitely be using his right hand down the lane, and I think he wins.
I think you put some really good points out there, Chelsea. One thing I'm going to disagree with you on is he doesn't need to win angle. Tell me the last time a horse has won the Derby off the excuse of he didn't need to win his prep. Going back a long time, really basically since the point system has been a thing, the winning horse, or at least the first horse past the wire, has been one that won his previous prep.
That's going to say Country House. That's the first one that comes to mind.
Again, I've got the sabers here. I've got, you have your problems. I got my solutions. We're going to zig and zag here. But it's the kind of thing where you need to come in with a hot hand or hope the horse with the hot hand gets disqualified. And if a horse throws a clunker in their prep and comes into the Derby off of that clunker, they're usually pretty safe to toss. It's been a long, long time since one hasn't done that.
I mean, you did say, and I have to say this now because you sort of let that door open.
Oh, boy.
You did say the horse that got disqualified in the Derby, and we will note that Louis Saez is also on Essential Quality. So
listen, we're going to worry about that once we all get to Churchill Downs, okay? Right now we're worrying about what's going on this Saturday at Keeneland. And again, Maximum Security won his prep at Florida Derby too. So that's
I think you both make interesting points. There was a time when it was okay to finish second in your prep race, and I think of Unbridled in the Bluegrass, and I think Street Sense in the Bluegrass, both for Carl Nasger. But times have changed, and I don't know if it's that horses are running fewer, they're spacing the races out more. I think the trainers feel they need to get more out of each race they have. Back when the Bluegrass was 9 days before the Kentucky Derby, and then 2 weeks before the Kentucky Derby, it was like it was not essential to win. I think now that the trainers have a little bit different mentality. And interesting with Brad Cox, this is his first rodeo with the Kentucky Derby. Huh?
It's his first Derby.
Yeah. So
that absolutely floors me. It feels like he should have a Derby starter by now.
Well, he didn't win his first Grade 1 until 2018, I guess, right?
That's true. That's true.
3 years ago this weekend, in fact.
Yeah. Well, I think Essential Quality is going to be tough to beat because he's got practical. He's got speed to be prominent or take the lead if he wants to, because this is a race without speed. I think he'll win, but I'm going to go with another Todd Pletcher horse here, Untreated, who I think will also be prominent early. I did look at the replay of his races, Chelsea, and he doesn't have sprinter speed. He debuted in a sprint and doesn't have quick early foot, but I think he's quick enough to be prominent early, and we'll see how good he is. He was a high priced yearling. He started out with Paul Pompa, who passed away, and then Team Valor bought him, moved him from Chad Brown to Todd Pletcher. So I like Untreated there. Again, if you can beat Essential Quality, you're going to get a good price because he's going to be a very short number, I think.
So one horse that none of us have mentioned yet so far in this race. Keep me in mind, like anything there, guys. Do we feel like he's kind of run his course? Do we think that Rebel was more of a fluke or more of a sign of things to come for him?
I think the pace. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ray.
The pace plays against him
until they give me a reason not to.
Yeah,
he's going to be hurt by a slow pace because he needs a faster pace. All right, let's go out west, and what was going to be a walkover for Life is Good is now a fairly wide open race. Even though Bob Baffert's deep bench will have the favorite with Medina Spirit.
How about we call it Medina?
Yeah. So Chelsea, why don't you go? Tell us who's going to beat Medina Spirit here.
I think we're all on the. I'm on the other Baffert train in this race. If you look at, I'm going to go on replays again. If you look at Defunded's maiden win last out, the 10 horse, he ran a really good race, and it was under a hand ride from Rosario. It just was really nice. Now it's a big ask, stepping up to 1 1/8 Grade 1 from a 6 furlong maiden special weight, but pretty sure we've seen a Baffert horse do that a time or two in the last 4 or 5 years. So
do you see him coming out of that sprint and going straight to the lead?
No, he breaks like he's trying to pull the entire starting gate behind him. So he's going to be sitting back off of the Grade 1, Medina Spirit, etc.
As for me, I have two schools of thought here. One, the only horse that has really given Medina Spirit problems is Life is Good, and he's not here. So by default, Medina Spirit should be the favorite and probably ought to run as such. He's really the only horse that's even made Life is Good breathe heavy in a race. That being said, there's also the school of thought that sometimes a horse just gets beat enough that they forget how to win. I don't think that's necessarily a problem here, but you do have to wonder if a horse has just seen enough of the hind end of Life is Good that maybe he doesn't prove out when it's his time to shine. I don't know. We'll find out this Saturday. My top pick is going to be Medina Spirit. Somebody come out and beat him, please. That being said, if he doesn't show up and I go with my second school of thought, I've got my eye on number 9, the Great One. Nyquist is red hot right now, winning all over the place, topping the Fasig-Tipton Gulfstream sale. Didn't do so well against Life is Good and Medina Spirit in the San Felipe, but the race before that, absolutely freaked. Ran a 92 buyer, breaking maiden, won by 14 lengths. Before that, ran second by a nose in the low self-maturity as finishing up the 2-year-old campaign. I think there's something here. This horse would make sense to make the jump up a little bit. Doug O'Neill knows how to get a horse ready at this time of year. I don't know if he wins it, but I think he has his name called a few times and maybe gets himself enough points to run the Derby.
I think I'm in agreement with you, Joe. I like the Great One to win this race. That San Felipe kind of looked like a classic bounce, if you believe in the bounce theory, where he ran so big, breaking his maiden, got a big number, and just was flat the next time out. Now, running a good second to Spielberg doesn't look quite as good as it did then, because Spielberg has turned out to be kind of meh. He's okay, but he's not the top shelf, I don't think. And but I don't know. I think it looks like he's trained really well since that bad race in the San Felipe. This is not a strong group. Let's not forget Medina Spirit was $1,000 yearling, and he was resold as a 2-year-old for a little bit more money, but still, they're going farther than he's been before. I think at some point, his pedigree, which I know he's from a young sire that hasn't had a lot of opportunities, at some point his pedigree is going to show up. So I'm going to go with the Great One here. I agree with you. Nyquist is good. And I'm a huge Jackie Gleason fan. I know you two probably grew up watching Jackie Gleason like I did, right?
To the moon, Alice.
Yeah, the Great One. There you go. Good for you. So he is named after Jackie Gleason and not Wayne Gretzky. Is that right?
I don't think that. I mean, he is owned by a hockey player, and the stallion's named after a hockey player.
Okay.
I'm gonna play the odds here.
Okay. All right. You got me there. All right. Well, listen. Thanks to both of you for your insights on these 3 races. This is the biggest weekend of the year before the Triple Crown, as far as I'm concerned. 3 big races. Maybe not the 3 best races, because I think the Florida Derby, I think may end up giving us the Kentucky Derby winner again this year, as it's done in the past so many times.
Big call, Ray. I like it.
Calling that shot.
Well, it's a pretty easy call, really. I mean, the Florida Derby has become the major prep, and I think it's since they moved it on the calendar to where you used to be able to go to the Florida Derby and then do the Wood or the Bluegrass, and it just really fits perfectly as a prep for the Kentucky Derby, I think.
You don't like Concert Tour down in Arkansas next weekend?
We'll see how he does. I think he'll win that race, but I'm not convinced he is that good.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Fair enough.
All right. Well, as mentioned, the Friday show is sponsored by Rowayton, and he stands at Diamond Bee Farm, Glenn Brock's farm in Pennsylvania. And here's a word from Glenn.
We have a new horse, Rowayton, that we're very excited about. He's an Into Mischief out of an Indian Charlie mare. He was second to Game Winner in the Del Mar Futurity, narrowly beaten, and Game Winner, of course, went on to be the champion 2-year-old that year. He was 2/10 off the track record at Belmont, and just a very, very useful. In that race, he came from off the pace. Other races, he showed speed and was on the lead. I love the influence of the Indian Charlie. Into Mischief is the hottest sire in the country, and he's owned by an organization that's going to support him with not only with mares, but supporting the industry by buying a lot of nice horses, and that's OXO Larry Best.
Thanks to Glenn Brock and to Larry Best of OXO Equine for their sponsorship of the Friday show. Rowayton standing at Diamond Bee Farm in Pennsylvania, the only son of Into Mischief in Pennsylvania. And now it's time for the Star of the Week.
One 12-1, Known Agenda is now on to take over the lead. It's Known Agenda and Irad Ortiz Jr. now moving away from Soup and Sandwich, who's back to second. Then Greatest Honor and Nova Rags 16th to go. It's Pletcher in the Derby again. It's Known Agenda for St. Elias Stable under Irad Ortiz Jr. 2.5 clear.
And up to the outside, hard ride guy. Just exchanged bumps with Like the King, but Like the King nonetheless is forging to the front outside the 16th pole. It's Like the King in front. Down on the inside, Hockey Dad still fighting on late on the same sainthood. Down to the wire, Hockey Dad, Like the King was brilliant in the Ruby. Like the King, impressive.
So Keeneland sires Known Agenda, the winner of the Keeneland Florida Derby. Now that's pretty cool. And he also sired the sire, Palace Malice, of the Jeff Ruby winner up at Turfway Park. Joe, Keeneland's quite a thing, isn't he?
Yeah, and if you believe in the metrics that we were talking about in the first segment about horses winning their final prep, going into the Derby, doing well, and just pedigree bona fides, Keeneland is what you want to see here. Known Agenda looks very good. From his first 8 crops, Keeneland has sired a classic winner or one that's finished in the money in the first 7 of them. From 2013 to 2019, he had a horse finish first, second, or third in the Derby, Preakness, or Belmont. So you know that there's probably going to be one that makes some noise here. A few of those, Palace Malice, as we mentioned, won the Belmont Stakes in 2013. Exaggerator won the Preakness in 2016. Also had horses like Ride on Keeneland, Keen Ice, Irish War Cry, Good Magic, and Owendale also hit the board in classics in that span of time. The horse knows how to throw a classic horse.
Chelsea, you've seen some of these Keenelands running. What do you think?
After everything we talked about earlier, how you trust a horse until you don't trust them, and then Known Agenda threw that clunker over at Tampa and then won the Florida Derby. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're totally wrong.
The one thing I'll say about Keeneland is he and if you have 2 horses that hook up at the top of the stretch in a 2-turn race and a mile and 1/8 or farther, and one's by Keeneland, I think you've got a pretty safe bet that horse is going to stay on. Whether or not he wins or not, it's not going to be because the pedigree doesn't instill in him that ability to get the distance. He's certainly a classic type horse.
Absolutely. Now we could talk about the trip a little bit. I didn't love the way that Known Agenda kind of drifted out at the end,
right?
But he's got some time to figure that out. We got a few weeks until the Derby. We'll get that straight and narrow and see where we're at in a few weeks.
Maybe he was frightened by the infield tote board, the big screen.
It's a big tote board. You never
Can
know.
we use that? Can we use that?
It works at Santa Anita, right?
Yeah.
Well, listen. Speaking of Keeneland, his son Vino Rosso is having his first foals. And standing at Spendthrift Farm. And I think Joe has some information about one of those in his weekly toast to Vino Rosso.
I absolutely do, Ray. We've been doing this segment long enough that I've started to pick up on a few patterns in my conversations with breeders. Last week, we talked about the leg that Vino Rosso was putting into his foals, and today we're going to talk about the mind. Here we've got a Vino Rosso colt out of the elusive quality mare Quality Pearl, who was born on Valentine's Day, February 14th, at Dove Crossing Thoroughbreds in Paris, Kentucky. I called Dove Crossing's Paula Toby to talk about this colt, and she was so impressed by his maturity. If you've been in central Kentucky this past week or so, you know how strong the winds have been, and Paula said this colt would march to and from the barn like a pro when every other horse on the property was losing their minds. Never batted an eye. She also said the colt, the control that he has between his head and his feet was well above his peers too. He's stepping over the thresholds that others took months to figure out without clunking their feet on them, and walking through puddles on the first try that other foals might treat like bottomless pits. Paula used this line that I really love to describe the colt, that it was really good. Very forward-thinking for such a young soul. I couldn't say that any better myself. And that's our toast to Vino Rosso.
All right, thanks, Joe. You got to love a foal born on Valentine's Day, right?
Exactly.
All right. Well, our thanks to Spendthrift Farm for their sponsorship of the toast to Vino Rosso. Thank you, Chelsea, for being with us this week, and Joe. That's it for the Friday show this week. We'll see you next time.